Hello, hello. Well, don't do that. That's gonna set me off.
Oh, I'm real crying now. Sorry.
How are you, James? Oh God.
I'm fine actually.
I am also fine.
You know me. Fake cry means real cry.
It's true. It's one of the impressive things about you. As soon as you start to fake cry, you're immediately really sobbing.
It's all the repressed emotion. Oh. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome back to another episode of Creep. What?
Huh? Welcome to Creeps and Creeps.
Welcome
to Corn on the Creeps and Coffee on the Cob. I'm your host, Cadoodle, and
who knows?
That's your host, Jadoodle.
Yep. Welcome back.
Boom, boom, boom.
Welcome back to another episode of Creeps and Coffee. I nailed it that time.
Nice.
This is a very special episode for me. It's my last episode for a while.
That's why I was fake/real crying.
Right? In case you missed the memo, I'm gonna be gone for a little bit because I'm gonna have a little baby.
Preggers.
Super pregnant right now. Only getting more pregnant by the day.
Sooner or later you're gonna pop.
My lungs have been pushed and displaced so far that it is overwhelming to talk sometimes. But it is my last hurrah. For a while, I'll be back. I promise I'll be back. But just makes this episode extra special and extra close to my heart. Let's jump right in.
This is gonna be the time I keep it in.
I know it is.
Goodbye.
I'm Kate.
And I'm Jane, and this is Creeps and Coffee,
a show where we talk about the dark parts of the world around us.
Cryptids, conspiracies, things that go bump in the night.
And the crimes behind the scariest creatures of all, humans.
Join us as we take a look at the stories sure to give you the creeps.
Pull up a seat, grab a coffee,
and let's have a chat.
For my last episode, like we were alluding to in the intro of the show, we thought it would be good to do some cases that were close to home for me. Literally close. Nope. And when we say close to home, we mean, my home. For those of you who don't know,
Alberta.
Yeah, I'm an Alberta girl.
Boo.
Hey. Watch out. You lived here.
I'm from Alberta.
Yeah. Boo.
Boo.
Weirdly enough, that's actually some lore I don't know if we've ever actually talked about on the show. Jamie and I were both from Alberta, both moved to New Brunswick, and met in New Brunswick. But all that to say, I'm from Calgary.
Yeah.
And we've done a couple episodes on local hotspots for places that we've been. We've talked about haunted spots in Halifax. We've talked about hauntings and cryptids in the UK, in Italy. But now it's time that I get to dip my toes into the hotspots in my hometown. And I'm really excited about this because this means that I get to talk about one of my favorite places in the world.
With lots of, there's history and lore.
Shocker to no one. So not only do I get to talk about my favorite place in the world, I also get to talk about some other local haunts, quite literally, that really keep the excitement and the history of Calgary going. And what I love about Calgary is that there's such an amalgamation of cultures out here. As much as everybody jokes that Alberta is the Texas of Canada, you're right. I'm not going to pretend that that's not it. But that means that we've also had a lot of different types of settlers out here. There's a lot of Western, like cowboy history. There's a lot of indigenous culture out here. There's a really strong Japanese culture out here. So, I don't know, I love looking into the history of where I am. And I think Calgary has a lot more to offer in a lot of ways than people give it credit for, but especially when it comes to our history and the haunted places that we see around the city. So I think it gets overshadowed a lot because we're super close to Banff. I think it gets overshadowed by like the Banff Springs hauntings.
Oh yeah.
And the like big name ones in Canada. But Calgary itself has a lot more at hand than I think people give it credit for. With that, let's jump into my favorite place. Not only is this place my favorite place in Calgary, this place may be my favorite place in the entire world.
It definitely is.
It for sure is. And I'm talking about a place called Heritage Park. Heritage Park, long story short, is what's called a living museum. So it's basically designed to be a town, like an Albertan town, how it would have been in 1912-ish Calgary. So it takes you right back to...
Your favorite year.
That's another thing, is it's my favorite year. We all know why it's my favorite year. It's because the Titanic sank.
Titanic.
But weirdly enough, I was at Heritage Park one year, and I was on a hayride. And it was a hayride with a bunch of kids. I think I was taking my niece and nephew on it or something. And
sure,
the tour guide was like giving the spiel about what Heritage Park was. And he was like, it's based on a town in Alberta, like rural Alberta, 1912. Does anyone know why 1912 was a significant year? And the way that I like had to bite my tongue, I think I audibly went, oh, because my mom looked at me immediately and gave me a look of like, don't you dare open your mouth. Like, it's bad enough that we're at Heritage Park. Don't you dare start talking about the Titanic. Nobody else raised their hand. Again, we're on a wagon ride with like children and their parents. Everybody's looking around. I think the tour guide heard my sound. Like my... And he looked at me and went, do you know? And I went,
yeah.
It was the year the Titanic sank. And the look that this man gave me was equal parts admiration and confusion. And he went, oh, yeah, actually. Yeah, that was the year the Titanic sank. And I was like, okay. My mom had a look of like, please don't ask her any more questions about this. Which was fair.
Why did she have such a visceral reaction to this?
But my favorite year, my favorite place. So what I enjoy about Heritage Park, and this is just a side tangent, I don't work for the park. This is not an advertisement for the park. They're not paying me to say this as much as I would.
But if you want to,
devote my life to this park. What I love and appreciate about Heritage Park is that it's the type of place that gives people who might not be into history a much more immersive experience than walking through a museum where you're looking at a bunch of artifacts in glass cases that you can't touch, you have no idea, you don't want to read a bunch of stuff. Heritage Park is a living museum. You get to walk through houses that were
it's pretty cool.
Originally standing in that time period. You get to walk through the first homestead of the first settler in Calgary, Sam Livingston.
With actors in it.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. There's actors in every part, and not corny enough that you're like, oh god. But they're interpreters that actually get to tell you the history of the house, that actually get to tell you what things were like, and they don't sugarcoat things, which I also appreciate. They're not blind to the fact that the land was not started by Sam Livingston, the first settler in Calgary. The land belonged to the Indigenous people beforehand, and they had some great injustices as the land was taken over from them. So they don't sugarcoat that part of history. They don't sugarcoat how history was for the Jewish community in Calgary, in that section of the park. They don't sugarcoat how difficult things were for Japanese settlers coming in. So it really is the most immersive way to get you or your family involved in the history of where you are. And with that comes a lot of artifacts, and with those artifacts come a lot of attachments. As Jamie knows all too well, because she's been dragged through Heritage Park probably more times than she would care to admit, a lot of where Heritage Park is and a lot of the buildings that stand on the park are considered to be haunted. Whether that be certain items they feel there's an attachment to, whether that be the buildings themselves, because you have to think a lot of these buildings, they weren't on the land originally, but they were moved onto the park. So they are original buildings or restructurings of buildings that hold a lot of energy and a lot of history. And this entire episode could very easily be just a breakdown of the hauntings at Heritage Park.
Yeah.
But I will bite my tongue a little bit. I gotta save something for the people who actually work at Heritage Park to be able to tell people. I will talk about my 2 favorite places at the park. So I'll start with a brief overview of my absolute favorite place on the park, and then we'll talk about the most notorious.
Ooh.
So my actual favorite place on the park is a place that they call the Happy House. It is kind of in the middle of the park, and it's this bright yellow family home that was owned by a family of immigrants. Their dad's name was Burnt Thorpe. I don't know why I've always remembered that. I think that's the sickest name.
Burt or burnt?
Burnt. Yeah, not Burnt. Burnt Thorpe. So the Thorpe family was, like I said, a family of immigrants. There was Burnt and his wife, and then they had 6 children. Jamie's giggling.
I wanted to make a joke. Don't drop that Thorpe the Thorpe. Hey, don't drop that.
I haven't thought about that song in years. Wow. But the Thorpe house seems to be, embarrassingly enough, where I spend most of my time when I'm at Heritage Park. To the point where the first time I brought Jamie, I noticed that there was a new clock up on the wall. I pointed it out and I was like, oh, there's a new clock up there. And the interpreter that works in the house full time went, why do you know that? And I had to embarrassingly admit that I spend a lot of time at Heritage Park. And have since I was a child. So, that's beside the point. Back to the Thorpe family. It was a big family. And what was really, really loved about the Thorpes is that they were a very inviting household. There was always parties going on. Every single person in the family played an instrument. They played piano, they played guitar, they played the fiddle, they played the accordion. They always had something going on that made the house nice and lively. It's said that Mrs. Thorpe always had a pot of coffee brewing. So Mr. Thorpe worked for a man named Peter Prince, who we're going to talk about after this. But working for his milling company. So it was always the blue-collar guys that were hanging around. So Mrs. Thorpe always made sure there was a fresh pot of coffee on the stove. And Mr. Thorpe always made sure that she was taken care of with fresh roses being brought to her. If not every day, every other day, to make sure that they were upkept. It said that for the time, they were very obviously in love. Not to say that it wasn't possible for people to be in love in the early 1900s. But the structure of marriage was very different than what we consider it to be now. A lot of it was done more out of necessity, or it was kind of not forced, but it was not as stereotypically loving as one would assume. But it said that for the Thorpes, there was no denying that they were a very loving, very happy family. And it said that all of that positivity and happiness and love that was in their house while the family was alive is continuing well into the 21st century. When you walk into the Thorpe house, security guards have said that they've gotten basically like hit in the face with the smell of fresh flowers. Or the people who will go to open in the mornings will walk in and they'll be able to smell the fresh coffee. Smell the fresh coffee. As though Mrs. Thorpe had just put a pot on for everybody she knew she was going to see throughout the day. People who are in the house late at night, whether that's interpreters who are working there to close the park or whether that's security after the fact, have heard music playing in the front room as if the party is always going. And the thing that I love about the Thorpe house is that it always feels inviting. It always feels very, very welcoming. And yeah, I get a good vibe from that house. It is next to the most aggressively haunted house on the park.
I was just gonna say, which one did I go to where I did not like the upstairs? I felt like something was in the stairwell.
I think that was the Airdrie house, but you weren't allowed to go upstairs.
Yeah, I never went upstairs, but I was like, something feels sinister.
Okay, maybe I'll tell 3 stories about the park. So I said that the Thorpe house, they call the happy house stereotypically. The house next to the Thorpe house is called the Airdrie house. They call that the sad house. And that is the only house in the park that will not have an interpreter working inside of it at any point because the staff refuses to work in there alone. It is also the only house where there is no longer allowed anyone upstairs because patrons have been pushed down the stairs. The spirits in the Airdrie house are known to be categorically aggressive. There's a very heavy feeling inside that house. And there are a lot of reports of being watched through the front window, of people being pushed, scratched. There's a security guard that said that he got an alert one night. A lot of the doors are bolted shut in the houses in Heritage Park, so people can't freely wander through everything. The back door of the Airdrie house is bolted and locked shut. There's no way to open it. Unless you have, like, the cutters or the locks or whatever. And there was several reports from night security where an alarm would be triggered in the Airdrie house, and they'd go in and they'd hear that back door slam shut. But obviously, that's not possible.
You can't.
The family that lived in the Airdrie house all unfortunately died of, I believe it was tuberculosis, in quite quick succession. So the family that lived there had a significantly less happy life than someone like the Thorpe family. I hate that house and have since I was a child. I often refuse to go inside it. Anytime I do, Jamie makes fun of me because anytime I do, I walk in and I say hello to the spirits in the house because I'm scared that they're going to be mad at me for whatever reason.
They probably
Well, exactly. So, I'm not taking...
Like, I'm not a full 100% believer, but I'm certainly open to it.
I'm...
And I will act accordingly.
Not taking any chances. Just saying.
Yeah.
But so those are... It's kind of ironic that those two places are right next to each other because the vibe is completely different and the history of the houses are completely different. The most notoriously famous house in Heritage Park is a house called the Prince House. The Prince House is, like, if you're Canadian or Albertan or if you're ever Googling Heritage Park, The Prince House is the house that you will probably see in advertisements. It is a gorgeous sandstone house. It's remarkable. Like, I can't even explain to you how beautiful it is. It's like just exactly what I wish my house could be. It is the original building that was built by Peter Prince, but it is not in the original location it was in. The house was originally located in an area of Calgary called Eau Claire, which is now downtown Calgary.
Okay.
But it was relocated to Heritage Park, and it was designated a historic building. Fun fact about the Prince House, they had to cut it into 3 different parts because it's such a big house. So transport required them to cut it into 3. They basically moved it like top half, bottom half, and then like the turret on the side, the like little tower thing that they have. But beautiful spot. Adore the Prince House. They have a beautiful gazebo in the back, like everything. It's just, for the historic fan that I am, it's my favorite place. But enough about me. Let's talk about Peter Prince. I mentioned Peter Prince's name talking about Burnt Thorpe. Burnt Thorpe worked for Mr. Prince. Peter Anthony Prince was a successful businessman who built and operated the Eau Claire sawmill. So the Eau Claire sawmill was kind of what put Calgary on the maps in terms of energy production. 1885 to 1916, he managed the Eau Claire sawmill and really worked his butt off to build Calgary into the booming community that it was. If you are familiar with the Calgary area, just outside of Eau Claire, there is a little island called Prince's Island Park. You can take a wild guess that this was named after Peter Prince. What? It gets confused. For the longest time growing up, I thought it was Princess Island Park, like princess. It is not. It is Prince's Island Park. Like, it is the island that was Peter Prince's. Cool. So, he built this house for him and his first wife. The Prince family, from that point on, had a bit of a tumultuous life. Unfortunately, Peter Prince did not have the best luck when it came to his wives and their living. As terrible as that sounds. So Peter Prince lost 3 wives living inside this house. And this was all within a decade.
Great.
First of all, moved on real fast. But again, this is not to say that he didn't love them. That sounded heartless. But this is, again, where I'm saying, like, marriages at this time were kind of more out of convenience. Or almost like a status symbol. All that to say, his first wife, Margaret, lived with him in the house. She unfortunately died of diabetes. After Margaret passed, he married his second wife, Emma. Emma, unfortunately, I shouldn't laugh, it's terrible. Emma unfortunately contracted tuberculosis.
It's not funny anymore.
And he had some renovations done on the house to accommodate that need for her. So the 3rd floor of the house, if you are looking at pictures of the Prince house, you can see that there's a room upstairs that faces out the front door that has a balcony on the front of it. He had that balcony added because it was believed at the time that the best cure for tuberculosis was fresh air.
Nope.
So, in order to have that opportunity to have constant access to fresh air, Emma was given that balcony so that she could go out there as often as possible. Unfortunately, Emma did succumb to tuberculosis, as was quite common at the time. And after Emma passed, he married his 3rd wife, Rosa. Rosa, unfortunately, would contract cancer. And it was during this time that she was moved up again onto the 3rd floor. That seemed to be kind of the hospital area of the house, as weird as that may sound.
Sure.
But again, because it had access to that balcony, he thought this would be the best place for her to have her own space to heal. All of his children from previous marriages, all of that sort of family was grown and out of the house. So this was really her own space to heal, and he hoped to get better. Rosa had her sister Emily come take care of her while she was in her last days. Rather than pay for a nurse or pay for anything of that nature, she wanted to make sure that she was surrounded by her family. So her sister Emily came to take care of her in her final days. And unfortunately, Rosa did end up passing away from her cancer, to which Peter Prince responded by marrying Emily.
Okay.
So
Why not?
I think, as much as I like to laugh about that and kind of, now we're kind of like, ooh. It's, again, going back to it being a staple of the time, it was kind of a status thing again, where Peter Prince knew that he was a well-off man. He knew that Emily was now struggling without a sibling. And he kind of felt it was his responsibility to take care of her family, of Rosa's family. So that's kind of just what they did. Was that in order to be that caretaker and provide the necessities of life at that time, it was kind of integral that a wedding happened. It wasn't unheard of that a lot of brothers would marry their brother's widows if their brother had passed away. You know what I mean? That idea of, I will take care of the family.
You're loving this history.
I really am. This is my favorite thing.
You're into it. I can see it.
So that's the general history of deaths within the Prince house. Emily ended up outliving Peter Prince. She did not die before him. She just happened to be wife number 4. She wasn't dead wife number 4. Peter Prince passed away before she did. The ghostly history of the Prince house makes my heart very happy, because a lot of the interpreters that have worked in the Prince house have worked there for a long time and have felt almost a strange attachment to not just the house, but to the Prince family itself. A lot of them have gone on to get to know the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of Peter Prince, and have gone through the history to fully provide us with the true story of the Prince family and of the house. The people who have worked in the Prince house feel a really strong attachment to it. And there's a few interpreters where they say if you want to have an experience, you should be going into the Prince house with those people specifically, because they've developed almost a relationship with the ghosts in the Prince house. Are you good?
Yeah, Burger's just biting me. It's the ghosts.
Perhaps the most notorious ghost that's seen in the Prince house, is that seen the most commonly by people who not only work at the park but visit the park, is the quote-unquote lady in white. If you think about it, typically a lady in white is either a nurse or a caretaker or like a single woman. But this lady in white is seen in what they have set up as one of the children's rooms, and she's often seen cradling a baby, as if she's like a nurse taking care of a child. what's interesting about this is that, as I said, there was no children in the Prince house at any time. There was at no point any infant child living in the Prince house. By the time Peter Prince had his house built, even with his first wife, Margaret, their children were grown. Or at least grown enough that they were past infancy. So it's more so believed that this apparition is attached to one of the objects that they have set up within the house. And that the comforting nature of the Prince house and the idea of, like, the healing and just the nurture that happened within the house has allowed that apparition to feel comfortable and feel at rest within the home, which I think is kind of endearing. There's also a lot of female apparitions that have been spotted through the windows on the 3rd floor, along with a lot of bright lights that are reported to come from the 3rd floor. But what's important to note about this is that there is no electricity on the 3rd floor of the Prince house. So those bright lights could not possibly be coming from anything like any lights turning on. It's a mystery as to where those lights come from, for sure.
Cool.
There's also a story that interpreters will tell you about a guard dog that worked at the park that would pull the security guard to the opposite side of the street as they were doing their nightly rounds and kind of pull away from the Prince house.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we always know that animals are more susceptible to spirits. So who knows?
True.
But in terms of smaller interactions as well, I think it's important to point out, like I said, the interpreters feel that they have a relationship with the house and with the spirits that are within the house. So you'll hear a lot of minor stories of, like, curtains closing and, like, clothing being tugged at. There's a really endearing story of one of the interpreters who actually really got to know the Prince family, the children and the grandchildren that have come from the family. Where she was having just a really rough day, and, like, the tour groups that had come in had been really rude. Everyone was all over the place. She was just feeling really stressed, and it was her turn to close down the house. And on each of the doors in the bedrooms, it's a closed door with, like, a glass window pane, so you can still see in and see the exhibit, but you can't go in and touch, if that makes sense. And I guess it was her job to just wipe down the windows, and she was feeling so frustrated that she sprayed the window, went to go get a rag to clean it off, and just was kind of letting the stress out, letting the tears fall. And when she turned back, there was a smiley face that had been drawn into the Windex that would spray it on the glass.
No.
And as unsettled as I would be, she said that it was the most comforting thing to think that whatever was in the house knew that she cared and equally cared about her and wanted to bring her back to this happiness. Again, unsettling as fuck, don't get me wrong, but a weird connection that's in the Prince house.
You can tell how scared we are over here at my house by Burger eating in the background.
He's stress eating. That's what he's doing for sure. Yeah, that's, as I said, there's a million more stories at Heritage Park, and I could spend the next hour talking about everything. But those are my favorite spots, and I think if you're ever in Calgary, they're absolutely worth going to check out. Even if it's not just to go for a ghost tour, I think Heritage Park is worth checking out if you have any interest in history, or even if you don't really have an interest in history. There's just lots of cool things to check out. There's trains, there's a whole gasoline alley, museum of old cars. It's a cool place.
Should I change the topic so you can stop propagandaing it?
Please do. Before I get flagged as like us having a sponsorship that we don't have.
I'm actually gonna completely change gears here, and I'm not necessarily going to talk about truly haunted places for a moment. I did want to promo Alberta for the amount of haunted houses that they have, like experiences.
Big time.
Because when I was trying to look up haunted houses in Calgary, as someone who's not in Calgary, it thought I meant like attractions, like you go to during the month of October. And I was like, well, that's silly. Well, I'm gonna look anyway. And then I looked anyway, and you guys have some cool things.
We do.
You've got one called What Lurks in the Dark.
Yes.
You've got a Stampede Fright Night.
Yes.
The Almost Stampede. Of course, like most major cities, you guys have ghost walks, which...
Yeah.
Have you done one?
I have.
I knew it.
We have several. We have them in several different neighborhoods downtown. So the Eau Claire area, where Peter Prince's house originally was, is very haunted. Inglewood is very haunted. Kensington's very haunted. So those areas offer their own ghost tours specifically.
This one, Haunted Calgary presents Hell Night.
Yes.
$60 at Heritage Park. Undead Invasion. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Again, at Heritage Park, so check it out.
You've got Mystic Manor.
Yes.
Fear Factory.
Yes.
This one I wish I was there for. True Crime Tour. Hangings, Homicides, and History.
Yes.
Screamfest.
Okay.
Field of Screams.
Screamfest is sick.
I
have to interject there. Screamfest.
You've been there?
No, because I'm too scared to go. Because they actually go fucking hard with it every year.
Really?
Yeah. It's insane.
Go.
And then what was the other one you just mentioned? The Field of
Screams.
Yeah. Also terrifying.
Amazing.
I did Field of Screams last year or 2 years ago. That was where I got really drunk and got bit by a kangaroo.
Oh. Kangaroo. Mm-hmm. Great.
I have no further context to that story.
The last one I'll mention, Train of Terror.
I was really hoping you were going to mention the Train of Terror because that's one of the ones where you have to sign a fucking waiver before you get on. And it's
Canada's
terrifying.
only moving haunt.
It's terrifying. So,
That
Jamie,
sounds
do
so
you remember
cool.
at the Comic Expo when we went down that hall and they had that giant Krampus at one of the booths?
Sounds vaguely familiar.
That was the Train of Terror.
I want to go.
And that's just, I don't. That is true. Like, it's truly one of the ones where you have to sign a waiver. That's like, I understand that people have heart palpitations, they scream, they cry, they pass out. You cannot get off this fucking train. And they, like, the animatronics that they have and the actors that they have working for the Train of Terror, like, it's, the production level is nuts.
I like it.
It's terrifying.
I like it. I would like to go there. I want to go there.
They go hard.
On to real spooky ones. Like real paranormal ones, I should say. There's so many.
Yeah.
And so many we actually don't have time to get into.
No.
But there's Old City Hall. Gary Theater. You've got Fire Hall number 1 specifically.
Which is now a restaurant.
Oh. Western Canada High School. One that I thought was interesting to mention is called Devil's Playground.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So for this one, Devil's Playground, it's actually quite sad. A small schoolhouse burned down, killing anywhere between 3 to 8 children.
Yes.
Love how there's not a specific number there.
No, because it was such a small schoolhouse and it was not really registered. It was kind of like someone in the neighborhood taking care of the kids kind of thing.
Yeah. This place is so haunted, there's a documentary called The Devil's Playground that premiered at the Calgary Comic Expo.
It's very spooky.
And there have been reports of children's handprints appearing on foggy car windows. laughter of children echoing in an empty field, since now it's empty, as well as animal bones being arranged in strange patterns.
And you guys know that I don't fuck with little kid ghosts.
No.
Because it's never a little kid.
Nor do I.
Sorry. It's definitely one of the scarier places. Like Jamie said, yeah, it's now an empty field where everything was. But even from Google Street View, if you could see the area, it looks not.
If I'm standing in an empty field and I hear children laughing nearby...
Gone. Gone.
Another one that I wanted to mention is a place called the Bank and Baron Pub. So it used to be a nightclub in the 1980s known as the Bank Nightclub. One night, 2 women were fighting over a boyfriend. One of the women and her friends lured the other into a bathroom and beat her to death. People still claim to hear the murdered woman's cries inside the bathroom stalls.
I don't care for that shit at all.
I hate a bathroom.
I hate a bathroom.
Another place called the Cat and Fiddle.
Yes.
Have you heard of this one?
I have heard of the Cat and Fiddle.
Yeah. It's a pub currently, but originally, don't know why people love to do this, originally it was a funeral home and crematorium.
Yes. Yes, it was.
Apparently the spirits who inhabit this building are super nice, and there's a woman in a red dress who smells of perfume. You can smell her perfume. I wonder what it is. Chanel number 3. Like, let's find out.
Is it my mom?
And supposedly a well-dressed man with a top hat who also in the bathroom.
And may I just say, that is definitely something that'll stick out, because the Cat and Fiddle is not a place where you would go in a top hat.
No.
When we say like local pub, it's a pub.
You would expect a biker to be at a pub. Supposedly there's a biker ghost who scared away a potential thief from breaking and entering.
Yes.
So, thanks, man. Good for you. Do you have any before I keep going?
I do, and I think I have some of the same ones that you have. But I would like to talk about the history behind them a little bit too.
Oh,
Specifically, the history of a place called the Dean House. So the Dean House, again, much like the Hose and Hound at the Fire Hall and the Cat and Fiddle, is now a restaurant. And it is actually one of Calgary's top restaurants.
Whoa.
I have been several times. It's a little bit overpriced. I'm not going to lie to you. It's definitely one of those places that you like...
Well, yes.
You pay like $75 and then they give you like a really teeny tiny portion and you're like, oh, okay.
Thanks.
Like, I'm here for fancy food, I guess. You know what I mean? Like that kind of place.
Yeah.
But it was originally built for the superintendent of Fort Calgary. So Fort Calgary is also kind of a museum area now, but a military museum. And it was a home built in 1906 by the superintendent of Fort Calgary named Captain Richard Dean. And he built it for his wife, Martha, because he believed that the existing accommodations for military personnel were unfit for family living. The home was constructed by prisoners of Fort Calgary. So, already off to a rough start. You're kind of giving some bad juju on the house. But, unfortunately, again, talking about bad luck in love, Martha Dean would not live to see the home completed. And she would pass away of an undisclosed illness shortly before construction of the house was completed. The property of the Dean House also has the oldest house in Calgary, which is kind of interesting. It's basically just a teeny tiny little structure, but that's still standing. But all that to say, blah, 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 blah. Fort Calgary closed in 1914, so 8 years after Richard Dean started construction on the Dean House. It was transformed into the station agent's living quarters for the Grand Trunk Pacific Railway, who purchased the land. They tore down everything except the Dean House, pretty much, And yeah, that became the station agent's living quarters. And the house was moved to the southeast corner of the property, where it sat for the next 15 years. That brings us to 1929, where the home was purchased by a man who intended to use it as a boarding house. They moved it again across the Elbow River to the opposite side of the shore. And the house was later sold to a man named Alex Brotherton, who continued to run the property as a boarding house called the Gaspé Lodge. This is when things really started to go downhill at the Dean House. During its time as the Gaspé Lodge, as a boarding house, a lot of tragic events occurred. In 1933, a 14-year-old boy committed suicide in the attic. He had been bullied at school for having epilepsy and couldn't take it anymore, and unfortunately took his own life upstairs. In 1952, this is perhaps the most significant thing that people talk about when it comes to the Dean House. A tenant of the boarding house named Roderick Umperville stabbed and strangled his wife Irma while his children watched, and then killed himself. So very, very intense situation. And again, it's similar to how we've talked with haunted hotels and stuff. When you have a boarding house, there's lots of people coming in and out. There's lots of energy being passed. And when tragic events like this are occurring, that's also going to be a big motivator in creating a space where paranormal energy is heightened, for sure. Alex Brotherton, the man who had bought the house and turned it into the Gaspé Lodge, died in the house in 1968. And the Dean House's violent and tragic past cemented its reputation as one of Calgary's most haunted houses. Staff talks about how haunted the Dean House is all the time. And it was actually really interesting to speak to a lot of the staff at the Dean House and hear how many of them had had their own experiences. There's a really famous story of an old telephone that's inside. So to keep up appearances and kind of keep up that historical look and remind people of where the Dean House was and what it had been, they kept the old rotary phone, but without any inside wiring and it not being connected at all, because obviously without the wires you can't connect it. Staff will say that that phone rings all the time.
That's crazy.
Which would freak me out. A lot of other visitors claim to hear voices and footsteps. They smell cigar smoke quite often, and they can hear an antique piano playing by itself, which would make me very unsettled. It actually reminds me a lot of the stories that we talked about with the restaurant that's now where the funeral home was.
The Five Fishermen?
Yes. Very similar to that. Yeah, I don't know. You make a good point. I don't know why they turn so many of these places into restaurants.
It's nice and spacious. It's got lots of storage room.
Lots of dead people.
Okay. You know what? I bet this crematorium would make a nice, nasty pub.
Yeah, like going...
buy it.
When I did my tour of the Five Fishermen, the vibe was the exact same. When I toured the Five Fishermen, and I think I told this story when we did the Halifax Haunts episode, they showed me, like, the hook that they used to bring up the bodies in the elevator.
Yep.
And they were like, oh, but now it's the wine cellar. How cool is that? Look at this hook. This is where the bodies were. And I was like, okay. And then when I was walking through the Dean House, they were showing me the dining room upstairs. And they were like, yeah, and this is where the guy killed himself and his wife. And I was like, okay. Perhaps more disturbingly, a lot of staff members have also reported dark apparitions. They've seen a lot of apparitions missing legs below the knees that float down the stairs and then disappear. Storage bins that they see in the attic appear to suddenly have bloodstains on them that cannot be scrubbed away no matter how hard the employees try. One story that has really kind of become legend, I suppose, is the sighting of a native man who tends to appear. People say they see the ghost of an Indigenous man whose hair was in a single braid, wearing a long sleeve shirt and vest, and he's seen around the home all the time. There's one witness who said that this man had warned her that she shouldn't be in the house because it's a sacred place. There's no indication specifically of who this person could be, but based on descriptions, what staff at the Dean House told me is that they believe it to be Chief Deerfoot. If you're in Calgary, you'll know that one of our main roadways is Deerfoot Trail. It passes through most of the city. And Chief Deerfoot did a lot of incredible things, but unfortunately was not taken seriously as an Indigenous man and is said to have left a curse on part of Calgary. Ironically enough, Deerfoot Trail has the most amount of incidents and car accidents. Right. Again, it is a main thoroughfare, so could it be just that there's more cars on that road, so there happens to be more accidents? Maybe. But the severity of the accidents that happen on Deerfoot Trail sometimes brings that into question. Ooh. But there's a lot of people who believe that because this is the place where like one of the oldest buildings in Calgary stays, that maybe Chief Deerfoot kind of comes back to that. Again, there's no real record of that for sure being him, but that is sort of the speculation that comes out of the Dean House. So, but currently, yeah, fine dining restaurant, wedding event space.
Go check it out.
They also do ghost tours. They have a great brunch. Their staff is very chatty.
Got a great Caesar salad.
They do a great, like an apple mimosa.
Oh, that's, my God.
When I wasn't pregnant, it was delicious. Now that I...
Just to clarify.
Now that I am pregnant, unfortunately, I cannot enjoy it. Okay.
I will round off with one of my final ones, just because there's so many. We have to pick and choose.
We're gonna need to do a second episode, so
we can do. Yeah, we can have Kate when she comes back. I want to
talk history.
And I actually am finding the history interesting.
Thank you. I try.
But it is a time sucker.
I try.
So that's why we're like, I am a history professor.
That's me.
So
that's what I'm gonna do on my mat leave, is get my fucking history degree.
You could speed run it. My final one of the night is a place I'm quite positive Kate knows about. The Zoo Bridge.
That's the one that I was gonna do.
Oh my God, you talk about it then. I know you have more history than I do.
I do have more history because the Zoo Bridge is possibly the most famous haunted spot in Calgary. If you ask any paranormal enthusiast in Calgary what the number one most haunted place in Calgary is, they are pretty likely to say the Zoo Bridge. Unfortunately, as of 2025, as of a couple of years ago, but definitely as of 2025, the Zoo Bridge is no longer there. They have moved, they've changed things around. You can no longer access this area. There's speculation that it's because of a lot of the hauntings that are reported here and the annoyance that it became for emergency services. So, what it's believed, again, there's no concrete story. It's kind of an amalgamation of a couple different records and what people have been able to piece together, and then local lore. But generally what we can see is that back in 1946-ish, near the bridge that connected Inglewood, the area of Inglewood, to St. George's Island, which was by the Calgary Zoo, a 6-year-old named Donnie Goss was playing in a park near the bridge when he was lured away by a predator. Some sort of person who wanted to do him harm. Donnie was assaulted, beaten, and stabbed repeatedly. And obviously, his murder became a hot topic. And people were very aware of how sad it was to think that a little boy could have his life taken away. In the years after 1946, all the way up until, I don't even remember when the Zoo Bridge closed. I want to say COVID years. It's relatively recent that the Zoo Bridge was closed. There have been constant reports of people seeing a little boy playing down by the river. People who have been thrown an orange ball and have had a little boy come out and say, "Come play.
No.
I want you to come play with me." Or to ask for help because he feels lost. Or people thinking that they see a lost child down by the zoo
crying.
bridge. Exactly. They'll hear cries, they'll hear laughter. And because it was such... The embankment by St. George's Island is not the most complicated to get to, but also not the most feasible to get to either. Obviously, this bridge is there for a reason. If it was an easy embankment to move past, the bridge wouldn't be there. But it was dangerous enough that people would see this little boy and they would call emergency services and report that there was a child in danger by the bridge. And emergency services would arrive because obviously they're not going to discredit, because the one time they're like, "Oh no, you're reporting something that's false," there's going to be another event, right? That's how that works.
Yeah.
But every single report ended up being nothing. But every single report also followed the same pattern of describing someone who looked like Donnie Goss, who was about 6 years old, trying to lure them under the bridge. Could it be actually Donnie Goss wanting someone to come play, or being stuck in that moment and wanting help? Could it be a darker spirit finding sympathy and trying to gain some sort of power by using Donnie's image? I never want to know.
That's more likely, but
Yeah.
who am I to...
I also feel that way. But that is the story of the zoo bridge. Again, we no longer have access to it because... I mean, that's not really a practical way into the zoo, especially now that the zoo is structured the way that it is now. And
It was in, I think, like 2017. It was...
Was it that long ago?
I think so.
I have no concept of time. But
still.
Relatively recent years. From 1946. It was much more recent than that the zoo bridge was closed down.
Yeah.
But yeah, we no longer have access to that because there were so many... I hesitate to say false reports because it's not like they were falsifying things on purpose. Just happened to be false reports because the child that they were reporting was murdered in 1946.
He's a ghost.
There's not much that emergency services can do at that point.
Well, God, should we wrap there?
We might as well. I mean, like I said,
We could go for another 2 hours.
I've got so many. I want to talk about the Lougheed House.
specifically could go.
I want to talk about the Lougheed House. I want to talk about the Suter House. I want to talk about the maternity clinic that I worked at. That's one of the most haunted places in the city. And I can attest to you that there's some freaky shit happening in that hospital.
So join us for Kate's big return with a 3-hour-long special.
Yeah, that's how I'm going to make my return. And you guys are going to have to deal with it.
I'm genuinely excited for that.
You're going to get
that will be fun.
You're going to get a little bit of a break from all the history. I'm going to hold Jamie to keeping some history in.
And I'm going to regret it when I have to edit this. And I'm like, oh God, it's 3 hours long. And it's just all history and a little bit of ghost hauntings.
My favorite. I'm gonna miss doing this, but I am very excited.
Still stay haunted.
Yes, I'm very excited to, before we know it, have my own little monster to tell these stories to.
What if your kid starts acting weird and spooky?
I can make another one.
What if they're standing in your doorway at 4 a.m. going, Mommy?
No, that's his dad's problem.
Who's the man under my bed?
It's gonna be a fucking problem. I'll tell you that
Mommy,
right now.
who's on the ceiling?
Jesus Christ.
Who's the 6-legged red man? Red Ra.
Jesus.
Yeet out the window.
Yep, correct.
Good riddance.
Yes. But yeah, as much as I would like to make some sappy goodbye, it's not goodbye forever. It's just given me time to go finish growing the little human that I need to finish growing and then getting him
caring
adjusted.
for.
Yeah, and then getting him adjusted.
Getting adjusted
to,
to life.
Yeah. And
Quite literally.
I'm excited to have a little bit of a break, but I'm also excited knowing that I'm coming back. I know that I'm leaving the show in fantastic, capable, hilarious hands.
Yes. Thank you. I hope you're talking about me.
I was talking about Anna, but you too.
Well.
No, I'm excited to still listen and still be as involved as I can. Just taking a step back.
Listen?
Of course. Just got to take a little bit of a step back for me for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for all of the love and support that you guys have given me. All that to say, for one final time for the next few months, if you would like to give your input on anything you've heard in our show tonight,
God, I'm gonna have to do this now.
if you want to tell us about your favorite haunted spots wherever you are, you can get in touch with us at our email, which is creepsandcoffee@gmail.com, or you can send us a message over on our Instagram and our Twitter at creepsandcoffee. Those are also the places you can go to check out pictures that are relevant to tonight's show, and you can check out some of my favorite haunted spots in and around the place that I love the most.
Yeah.
If you would also like to help support the show, while also getting exclusive behind-the-scenes access to how we run Creeps and Coffee and getting an extra special bonus episode every single month, you can head on over to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/creepsandcoffee, and you can really get some insight into how wild of an experience this show is. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Thank you so much for all of your support. I look forward to being back with you guys in a few months, and Jamie will talk to you very soon. Goodbye, I love you.
Goodbye, I love you. I'm talking to you, not them.
Bye.
Bye.
Creeps and Coffee is produced and edited by us, Kate and Jane.
Our theme music is Stuck in a Hole by Dated.
For more information on where to find them, check out the link in our show notes. And to connect with us, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Creeps and Coffee.